Welcome to Biology with Deepika, and in this video we will learn about the process of pollination. We will see how the pollen grains are transferred from anther to the stigma. Here we will see, and here we see the anther, and this is the filament, and these are the parts of a stamen, and this is the stigma of a flower. The pollen grains which are here in the anther will transfer to the stigma. So this process is known as pollination. And it is basically of two types, self-pollination and cross-pollination. In self-pollination, the process involves the transfer of pollen grains from anthers to the stigma of the same flower or of another flower borne by the same plant. And it is of two types, autogamy and geitonogamy. The pollination which takes place in the same flower or pollination occurs in a flower by its own pollens is known as autogamy. And here a single flower is involved. And in geitonogamy, pollination takes place in the same plant but two flowers are involved. So it is known as geitonogamy. And it is of two types, homogamy and clistogamy. In homogamy, the stamens and carpels of a flower mature at the same time. Therefore, the pollen grains of a flower can pollinate the stigma of the same flower, and it is found in mirabilis. In clistogamy, the flowers open after their maturation and expose their anthers and stigma to the environment. So this is known as chasmogamous flowers. Here we see how the flowers open after maturity, and these are the chasmogamous flowers. But few flowers which do not open even after maturity is known as clistogamous flowers. These are the clistogamous flowers, these are found underground, and these are the chasmogamous flowers. But few flowers are known as chasmoclistogamous flowers, which bear both the chasmogamous and the clistogamous flowers. Then we will go to cross-pollination. The pollen grains from the anthers of a flower are transferred to the stigma of a flower borne on another plant. In cross-pollination, two plants are involved. So the pollen grains from the anther of one plant will transfer to another plant. So an agent must be there to cause that transfer. So these are the agents: insects, birds, bats, and snails. And abiotic agents are wind and water. So we will see how the cross-pollination is taking place. In first one is entomophily. In entomophily, the pollination is occurred by insects. Here we see how insects are involved in pollination. In pollination by insects or entomophily, the entomophilous flowers are basically large-sized, colored, petals and perianth members are present, such as in bougainvillea. And bees usually love to sit on blue flowers, and usually butterflies like red ones. Then scents and odors, for example in nyctanthus, also help in pollination. And edible sap, as we found in orchid, also help in pollination. And nectars in the special glands also help in pollination. These are the sugary liquids secreted by special glands found in different positions in flower. The glands are often concealed with corolla tubes and spurs. This requires searching by the insect, which in the process gets dusted with pollen grains. Then edible pollens are also one of the factors contributing for insect to visit flowers. Bees often visit flowers to collect wax on the pollen to build combs. And special mechanisms are also found in this process. As we found in bignonia, the irritability of anthers and stigma to touch, and in versatile stamens found in grasses, and lever mechanism in salvia. In this video, I will show how the lever mechanism is shown by salvia, and it is very important. Here we see how this is bilabiate. Bilabiate means they have two upper lips and lower lips. And it is epipetalous stamens. Epipetalous stamens means the stamen is connected to the petals. And these are widely separated by a long curved and lever-like connective. This one. This connective moves freely on the filament. The upper anther lobe is fertile while the lower anther lobe is sterile. In natural conditions, it is usually straight. But when the bee push against the lower anther lobe and swing the connective while entering the corolla tube, here we see how the bee sit on the lower anther lobe which is sterile and enter into the corolla tube in search of nectary situated at its base. This brings down the upper anther lobe which strikes the back of the insect and dust it with pollen grains. The flower is protandous as the anther mature earlier than the stigma. As the stigma matures later, it protrudes out of the upper lip. Later it matures and it protrudes out of the upper lip so that it brushes against the back of the bee. Here we see. And receives the pollen grains. In the pollen grains of entomophilous flowers are usually sticky and so also the stigma. So this is all about the lever mechanism in Salvia. Then we will go to ornithophily. In ornithophily, the pollination is caused by birds. The androsium and parts of gynosium are often protruded like this, protruded out, so that the birds can, in search of the nectary, can sit on the flower and suck the nectars, and this also help in pollination. In Caryopterophily, the pollination is caused by bats. It is commonly occurred in the tropical regions and flowers are large sized and have long pedicels and produces large amount of nectar. This is very important. Pollination by bats is known as Caryopterophily. Then we will see how malacophily takes place. The pollination caused by snails and slugs is known as malacophily, usually shown by land plants like chrysanthemum or water plants like lemna. Here we see. Then we will go to anemophily. Anemophily is the pollination caused by wind. Here usually the flowers are small and inconspicuous. They are not showy and are devoid of scent or nectar. The pollen grains are often small, dry and light in weight, and sometimes it becomes winged. Here we see how in the maize plant the anemophily takes place. Here the style and stigma are generally branched to catch the pollen grains. In cereals like maize, the styles are feathery, appearing as tufts of fine, long and silky threads. Here. So this help in pollination. Here the pollination occurs by wind. Then the hydrophily. In hydrophily, the pollination is occurred by water. Water is the agent of pollination. Usually occurs in plant families such as Nidiaceae, Ceratophyllaceae and Hydrocharytaceae. Here pollination may take place in flower present below the water level such as Ceratophyllum, Nagus, etc. or flowers floating on the water surface such as Vallisneria or Hydrilla. Here we see this is the Vallisneria plant and this is the male flower and these are the female flowers. This is the female flower. And this helps in when the male flowers float on water, the female flower gets stuck. It has a spring-like mechanism. It is floating and it attracts the male flower, gets stuck with the male flowers and it comes down. So this is how the pollination takes place when floating on the water surface in Vallisneria. So the adaptations for cross-pollination are, first is dichlyny or unisexuality, in which flowers are usually unisexual, means male flowers possess only the stamens and female flowers possess only the carpels. It can be of two types. First one is monoecious. In monoecious, a single plant bears both the male and female flowers, such as in maize, pumpkin, and cucumber. In dioecious, male and female flowers are borne by two different plants. The staminate flowers are borne by the male plant and the pistillate flowers by the female plant, such as in Vallisneria and cannabis. So these are two important terms, monoecious and dioecious. Next, we'll go to self-sterility. In self-sterility, this is the mechanism against self-pollination. This is known as self-incompatibility. In this condition, pollen grains from the same flower or from any other flower of the same strain doesn't have any effect on stigma. For example, in orchids, the stigma withers if the pollen grains from the same flower are deposited on it. This phenomenon is also seen in tea, potato, tobacco, etc. So cross-pollination becomes necessary in such plants. Then the third one is dichogamy. In this condition, when stamens and carpels of a bisexual flower mature at different times, hence self-pollination between them remains ineffective. This can be of two types, protandry. Anthers mature earlier than the stigma of the flower. And when protagny means carpels mature earlier than the anther of the flower in Michaelia. So pro means before and andry means androsium. From the term androsium it comes anther. So anther mature earlier. When you will see the term protandry means anther mature earlier. When you say the term protogny, the carpels mature earlier. So this is easy to remember like this, protandry, protagny. This is all about dichogamy. Then we will see Herkogamy. In some flowers, there is a physical barrier between anther and the style. This prevents self-pollination. In the members of Cruciferae and Caryophyllaceae, style is long and carries the stigma far beyond the stamens. Such stigma would not receive pollen from the same flower. Here the style is very long, so it is very difficult to receive the pollen from the anther. In Gloriosa, stamens are extrorse and their dehiscence doesn't allow pollen grains to land on the stigma. Extrorse means stamens are protrude outward. If the stamens are protrude outward, the pollen grain cannot land on the stigma. In Calotropis and some orchids, pollens occur in special structures called pollinia. This can be transferred only with the help of insects. So this is all about Herkogamy. Next about Heterostyly. In this, the flowers are of two types, dimorphic flowers or trimorphic forms. With anther and stigma at different levels. Here we see anther and stigma are with different levels. One form has short stamen and long style and another has long stamen and short style. Here we see. This is heterostyle. Based on this difference in length, the phenomenon is called heterostyly, means styles are of different lengths, and heteroanthe means stamens are of different lengths. Here we see different length. Here is short, here is long, here is short, here is long. Then dimorphic heterostyly is shown by primula. This is in primula, dimorphic hetero, two forms. But in trimorphic heterostyly means three different style length. The three different lengths in the style is shown by oxalis. This is shown in oxalis. Three different style lengths. So this is all about cross-pollination and self-pollination, and we see how the pollen grains are transferred from the anther to the stigma. So do like, share and comment, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Thank you.